Namaste and greetings. I, Remat Arora, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav Evam Niti Anusandhan Sansthan, Nai Delhi, extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI #Web Policy Talk. We are gathered today for a panel discussion on Supreme Court verdict on the same-sex union, navigating its impact, implications, and future ahead. We're also gathered for the book release of Beyond Binaries, Understanding Sexual Identities and Queer Rights Issues in India, Event Outcome Report, authored by Professor Vibhuti Patel, Dr. Simi Mehta, Ms. Vithita Jha, and Ms. Samriddhi Sharma. Congratulations. This discussion is organized by the #IMPRI Gender Impact Studies Center, GISC, as part of IMPRI #Web Policy Talk. I welcome all of you to this enlightening deliberation and thank you for tuning in to this discussion. Now let me introduce the esteemed gathering. Our chair for the session is Professor Vibhuti Patel, Visiting Distinguished Professor, IMPRI. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
The distinguished panelists for the session are Prince Manvendra Singh Gohil ji, Chairperson, Lakshya Trust, Maya Awasthi ji, Co-founder, Transgender Welfare Equity and Empowerment Trust Foundation, Harish Iyer ji, Petitioner, Marriage Equality, Head, DE&I, Axis Bank, Equal Rights Activist, Co-Advisory Committee, LGBT Issues, NHRC, Rituparna Neog ji, Intersectional Queer Feminist Activist, Founder and Director, Ekam Foundation, Queer Intersectional Feminist Storyteller, and Vyjayanti Vasanta Mogli ji, Human Rights and RTI Activist, member of the Telangana State Board for Transgender Persons, LGBTQI+ activist, founding member, Telangana Hijra Transgender Samiti, Hyderabad. Welcome to all. We look forward to learning from our esteemed gathering. Now, without any further ado, let us start the program. It is my honor and privilege to invite Professor Vibhuti Patel ji to start the program with the chair's opening remarks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramat, for introducing the program. First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to conveners of today's session, Dr. Arjun Kumar, Director IMPRI, and Dr. Simi Mehta, CEO and Editorial Director of IMPRI, and Ashtaba and Rahmat, who is anchoring the program. Welcome Maya Awasthi ji, Harish Iyer ji, Rituparna Neog ji, and Vyjayanti Vasanta Mogli ji. Our fourth panelist, Prince Manvendra Singh Gohil ji, is not able to join us today due to medical emergency in his family. He had to rush to the hospital. And we begin that with a very sad note that Supreme Court judgment has been extremely indifferent, and not only that, and insensitive to the demands of the gender minorities. And as citizens of India, we are profoundly disenchanted by the judgment of this Apex Court of India on marriage equality on 17th October 2023. At the end of 10 days hearing before the Constitutional Bench headed by Chief Justice of India, Honorable D.Y. Chandrachud, the five judges like Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Justice Ravindra Bhatt, Justice Narsimha, Justice Hima Kohli, they heard the 21 petitioners from diverse socio-cultural backgrounds across region, class, caste, and religion. Some of the petitioners are with us today for this panel discussion. Each one of them provided ample examples of ground reality as to how the lack of legal recognition of the relationship had a dire real-life consequences for the LGBTQIA+ community. They also shared examples of multiple types of violence, physical, psychological, emotional, mental, sexual. It is faced by the queer community as well as the trans persons who are wanting to live their lives with their chosen families. Here, the unpacking of chosen families is very important, and I know our esteemed panelists are going to say that why it is very important for the legal system to recognize this category called chosen families in the context of multiplicity of violence that the gender minorities are facing. Justice Kaul did say, and I quote, Non-heterosexual and heterosexual unions must be seen as both sides of the same coin, while Chief Justice of India passed the parcel to the Parliament of India to decide whether there is need for a change in the regime in the Special Marriage Act. Judgments delivered in case also spelled out how the lack of legal recognition in the form of marriages or civil unions adversely affect the people in intimate relationships with LGBTQIA plus community in the intimate relationships. Yet all the empathy expressed in 366-page judgment was to no avail. It amounted to precisely what Chief Justice of India warned against in his opening remarks when he spoke on judicial platitudes. It's nothing but the judicial platitudes we got. And it is in this context that we have kept today's discussion, and it's a very serious debate on the issue, which is a life and death issue for the gender minorities, and the people who have worked and dedicated their whole life for the cause. They are there on the panelists. We feel humbled, we feel honored that they have agreed to be on the panel. Over to IMPRI team.
Astaba will now introduce the book. So do you want to take over?
Yeah.
Do I continue?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. It is with immense pride and a deep sense of fulfillment that I present this event outcome report for IMPRI #Web Policy Learning Program titled Beyond Binaries, Understanding Sexual Identities and Queer Rights Issues in India. This pioneering program held during the Pride Month from June 19 to June 23, 2023, stands as a testament to IMPRI's unwavering commitment to promoting equitable and inclusive policies in our society. The IMPRI Gender Impact Study Center embarked on a journey that transcended boundaries, both literal and metaphorical, to delve into the intricate tapestry of sexual identities and queer rights issues in India, beyond the confines of binary thinking. This program navigated historical, legal, political, social, and cultural dimensions, seeking to unravel the complexities that shape the lived experiences of the LGBTQ plus individuals in our diverse and multifaceted society. This report and event outcome is a collection of different ideas, debates, and experiences that will satisfy our efforts towards a more effective, comprehensive, analytic, and inclusive approach. It brings to the readers a nuanced picture of sexual identities and queer rights in varied dimensions. The report is freely available on our website to download. We will also share a copy in the comment section. As you delve into the pages of this report, remember that this is a call to action, a reminder that the journey beyond binaries is ongoing and that our efforts to create an inclusive and equitable society must continue. It is a tribute to the indomitable spirit of LGBTQ plus individuals, activists, scholars, and allies who shared their knowledge, experiences, and hopes during the program. This report is an invitation to everyone who seeks a more compassionate and inclusive world, a world where diversity is cherished and the rights of all individuals, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity, are upheld and respected. Thank you.
Thank you, Aspa, for introducing the book, and congratulations again to the authors,
Yeah.
Professor Vibhuti Patel, Dr. Simi Mehta, Ms. Vidita Jha, and Ms. Simriti Sharma for your book release of Beyond Binaries, Understanding Sexual Identities and Queer Rights Issues in India event outcome report. We can now, ma'am, move on to the panel discussion.
Yeah, I think you can also share the PDF on the chat box. And this book is in public domain. It is free of charge. Anyone can download it, use it for the training programs, Women Development Cell, Women and Gender Development Cell, Anti-Ragging Cell of the universities and colleges. We have 1,068 universities in India now and more than 15,000 colleges. And I think in there, these issues have been discussed and scientific understanding will be be provided. It can be used for the training programs and workshop. And that's why we have made an effort of capturing the best main highlights of the whole course, in which we had more than 30 experts on the subject to speak, who spoke with the knowledge of ground reality and their intensive research they have done in the area. So now we move to the panel discussion, and my first question is to Harish Iyer ji. And my first is that when the Special Marriage Act of 1954 is gender neutral, why did words quote unquote person and quote unquote party in section 4 were interpreted by the judges as marriage only between heterosexuals? In the 21st century, when 34 countries of West Europe, Scandinavia, USA, Canada, Asia and Pacific region, South Africa, Latin America have legalized the same-sex union, why is India hesitating? And how could this attitude of judiciary and the legislative bodies can be changed?
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me over, Dr. Vibhuti Patel and everyone else over there. I think one of the most important aspects that we need to recognize is that when love comes out of the closet, hate comes out of the closet too. And even the countries that, progressive countries that we are speaking about when it comes to marriage equality, it is not that homophobia or transphobia or queerphobia has come to a standstill. There still are challenges. I remember I've never experienced, at least in Bombay during the pride marches that we have, I've never experienced blatant homophobia or transphobia in the Bombay pride marches that over the years that we have been seeing. But by external bodies, I've seen infighting. I've seen a lot of those issues within the community, but I've not seen people from outside come on stage. As compared to when you go to the US and when you stand over there, you see these anti-LGBTQI plus groups which come out in large numbers. So this is not to say that we are very progressive or we have achieved too much. It's just to say that this is going to take time. And even while we were listening to various discussions in the Supreme Court, we because now we had an open court hearing. Most of the times we just had documented sentences. We could tell that we might not get marriage equality, but we will get something like a route to marriage equality. Okay, something that will define the path towards marriage equality. And what I mean by a path to marriage equality, what is marriage equality? I mean, what are we asking for? Are we asking for the right to sing have a hum aapke hain kaun kind of a wedding? We don't need anyone's right for that. We're still having fabulous wedding ceremonies across the length and breadth of the country. Okay, are we asking for permission to marry and to put to date? Well, there are dates happening quite openly in various forms, in various structures. So what are we really asking for? We are asking for a legal recognition of our relationship so that tomorrow for us, whether it comes to laws of secession, it gets easier for us, so that if my wealth has to go to a legally, it goes to a legally married person, so that legally married person be my husband, be my boyfriend, rather than my girlfriend for that matter. Yeah, I'm asking for the right that, okay, if I'm in a vegetative state in lying in a hospital, whether I need to have my oxygen removed or kept, is a decision that can be taken only by my folks or my children or my wife. My husband should have the same right to decide. So the whole idea over here is not about romanticized idea of love or marriage, because that is not stopping with or without the law. Even when Section 377 existed in our statutory books, it's not that we weren't LGBTQIA plus. We were constantly living our complete lives, even at that time, even under the wheel of threat. We were living complete lives. So the real question is, why was this? If this was something so basic, could there have been other means? Okay, if there was no marriage equality, could there have been other means if they were not reading into the Special Marriages Act? Because in some sections, in one or two sections, it is mentioned groom or somewhere. If even if it had to be read, even if you had to read into, if you think that the law doesn't have that judiciary benches don't have the ability, because that was their final. They weren't anti marriage equality. They were like, oh, it's so wonderful. We all believe in your rights, but decide. Let's pass the ball to the parliament. So, my whole thing was, could there have been a pathway in terms of, could they have recognized the fact that, okay, marriage is not a fundamental right, because many of them opine that marriage is not a fundamental right. Is right to life without discrimination a fundamental right? Is the right to life with dignity a fundamental right? And if my right to life, to a life of dignity, is in some way getting challenged because I don't have the right to a legal, even between heterosexuals, what exactly is marriage? It is a legal contract between two people, right? What is missing is that legal understanding, legal relationship, understanding of the relationship in legal terms, right? So if there was something like, even if it was even if there was a prescription of a certain document, like a power of attorney or something, that two people could decide that, you know what, everything that's going to be about me, whether it's about my bank, whether it's about who gets to be my nominee, whether it's about, these instruments do exist even today. Whether it's about deciding what will happen after my death, it's whether it's deciding, being a caretaker of anything. If there is a document which will be a power of something like, I mean, there could be a other term for it, something like a power of attorney that two people could give each other in view of marriage. Okay, could that have been a pathway? Could that have could right to a life of dignity being a fundamental right? Could that have been a pathway? So I think that we had an opportunity to read, or to at least prescribe something. The prescription was also half-hearted over there. Prescription cannot be let the parliament decide. What are the guidelines for parliament to decide? Have you given them something to debate on? Have you created a prescription, or probably a template of a document that two people can use for each other? Okay, whoever. I lost you for a moment. They could be mother and son, they could be boyfriend and boyfriend, they could be two women, they could be uh, two trans people spending time with it. They could just write a document which basically gives each other the rights to decide on the basis of everyone else. So probably that could have been a pathway for various other things. And I mean, even if you have to look at development, look at the economic, you forget the economic loss of LGBTQI plus people. But look at the laws that the laws that the nation could have because of the brain drain, the loss that the nation could have because of not reaching out to a population. I mean, I'm sure that there are two men who would love to take two men, two women, two trans people, a man and a trans person, any two people could be taking a home loan together, could be taking, not that they can't right now, but the risk is a little too much at this moment. So I think there was a lot of opportunity. It was more of an opportunity loss. And when people ask me about it, I always tell them that the English was beautiful. The
Yeah.
grammar was perfect and the syntax was to the point. Apart from that, they didn't give us anything else.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you think it's a problem of generation? Had there been younger generation uh, judges, they would have had a different way of looking at
Not,
it.
not really, not really. I think that Justice Chandrachud is progressive enough. It's not a play of age. I've seen younger people also being incredibly insensitive to a lot of issues. I think it's not the age, but the attitude that makes a lot of difference. I think we've had a very progressive judgment in Section 377 where the same platitudes worked in our favor. Right here, I don't even see the lack of intention. That the intention is also there. It is, it is, it is the complete lack of taking any responsibility. Also, the fear fear of retaliation. Okay, one of the people I was speaking to, they said that had the court favored marriage equality, there could have been an uproar in the parliament, and there could have not only marriage equality could have been taken, just as how it happened in Jallikattu, right? Not just marriage equality. I mean, even Section 377 could have been brought back into the statutory books.
Possibly.
So I think even that,
Do you
even the
think
fact that
letter of protest sent by the IS officers did also carry weight in the judgment?
I don't think so. I don't think anything
Interesting.
carried weight in the judgment except for the fact that see, I don't doubt the intent of the judges, or I don't at all but one. I don't think that most of them were even transphobic or homophobic or not understanding. In fact, they understood the difference between sex, sexuality, and gender as well. Uh, so I don't see lack of intention over there. I do see the lack of courage, and also too much of an understanding of the fact that the present disposition, when it comes to the parliamentary structures, the legislative bodies that exist, that whatever they do, the clock could be turned back by them, and sometimes not putting. And this is one of the conversations that I had with people from the ruling disposition. They said that had there been a positive verdict, the clock could have been turned back, and fear of retaliation as well.
Yeah.
Uh, so we don't know. All these are just hypotheses because nothing has happened as yet. The what we are able to see is that the judges could have done something. They didn't do what they could have done. Okay, so doesn't take away from what they did in 377, what they did in various other judgments, but this was an opportunity where they could have done well. I also didn't understand if they knew that the parliament had to decide what was the purpose of actually going. If this was the unanimous decision, why the entire rigmarole of going through the entire discussion?
Pending.
So it's like, I know the end result is this, so why should I raise hopes and aspirations of people when the end result was pretty unanimous, so to say.
Do you think that it was an exercise in public education because everything was happening live? People were seeing the arguments, pros and cons, and also the petitioners were very articulate. And the media was also reporting very, very scrupulously as well as in details. So do you think that it, in terms of consciousness raising, it played an important role? Maybe the end result is not.
It could have, but in the end, in the end, if it has no result, if the final result, and when you know that the result is going to be this thing, I think it's a futile exercise. I really think LGBT issues are just one of the many issues that lie before the parliament. I mean, I personally feel there could have been other issues that could have been discussed. The time could have been used for something else if it was just to raise public awareness. The CJI could have had a we could have had CJI and other people who could have approached some spaces and had a public discussions for issues of this kind. I mean, there could have been so many other ways. I don't think it was the rightful use of the Supreme Court's time as well. I mean, I might be an LGBTQI plus activist, but I don't think that's the only issue. There are so many issues of women, of Dalits, of so many
Gender-based
communities
violence.
who are getting attacked, and we didn't need this at this moment. We didn't need this. There's so many people, MPs, who are getting suspended. So many constitutional benches have to listen to so many things. I think so much of that could have been heard rather than this public using it as an instrument of public advocacy. I think there could have been another instrument that could have been used in that.
But what do you see as a positive fallout, like the polarization that has happened in the professional bodies like Bar Council, or maybe in the corporate world also, it must have had repercussions. So in terms of impact on different sections of population as well as the different stakeholders, how do you see that the current state of affairs?
I think the conversation has increased. I remember my CHRO calling my chief, my HR head, calling me up and letting me know about the fact that he's there with me. Okay, and many of us received calls from a lot of our managers who said that we are with you. Um, so it has come out. So it has heightened a little bit of awareness on the issue because after 2000, it's been 5 years after 2018 when the Supreme Court had read down 377. So we need some kind of some kind of a glimmer of hope every now and then. Um, but uh, but could that have been the only reason why we should have engaged in this? Is a question that, or could there have been a better way of engaging than using this? Is the whole thing? Yes, it has increased. The bar councils taking a stand on the issue. That is there, but it's also polarized people, right? I mean, there have been people who have stood against it, who have come
Again.
out as well.
Yeah. And there have
So
been
I
later
think
of protests by other section of lawyers also.
exactly. So there are all kinds of people who have come out and who have spoken
Forced
out.
to take sides, no? There were people who were forced to, the things which were hidden. Now it has come.
So I think that's a good thing because I always believe that, love always wore a mask and hate was out in the streets.
Yeah.
Now love doesn't have a mask, and the hate is wielded behind hate is behind the wheel now, right? So I think that transition is quite evident for the world to see, and it's a good thing that that is happening. But it was an exercise. It was a much ado about nothing kind of a thing that has happened when we have no result. And what makes me angry is that they knew that this was the result that they were arriving at. So, so if you knew this, why would you engage in? You could have just sent us some, or make something prescriptive. Create a document and say that this is what, in lieu of marriage equality, you can use this.
Yeah.
Okay, it might not have solved the problem, but it could have created a pathway to something. Okay,
Now
so
everybody is discussing, including Parent Teachers Association and all the youth organizations. You see number of public debates on the issue. Whether they support it or not is a different issue, but at least it has come center stage. At least I would see that as a very
that's happened.
yeah.
That's happened.
Yeah.
I know schools have had discussions.
Yeah.
I've had colleges, schools as in till 10th standard. I think there have been discussions over there within parent teachers associations.
Yeah.
I think those are definitely, and there were discussions even after 377. There was very little whether it was, there was little discussion after Nalsa around that time, but after 377 there was quite a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
And and I think marriage equality has also increased the dialogue.
Yeah.
But yeah, but still lot to aspire for.
But other countries also had the same trajectory, no? They were one step forward, two step backward kind of a situation. So I think the same
Yeah,
thing
over
can
time.
happen. Yeah.
Over time, I knew that I definitely knew, Dr. Vibhuti, that we are not going to get this. I knew that marriage equality is not going to be a dream that is going to be fulfilled right now. Um, but I also knew that there could be some pathway. Now, this is, I wouldn't say we have taken, uh, we took 2 steps forward and 1 step backward. So we're still little awareness, even the reiteration, and actually it wasn't something new, the reiteration that trans identities could marry heterosexually. That was also something that was, that reiteration in those many words was actually essential, because there's a lot of ambiguity in those things as well.
Yeah.
So it's not that nothing has happened, but yeah, disappointment is in the air.
Thank you, Harish. I liked your this thing about fundamental right to dignity. And second point is that of a 2 step forward, 1 step backward. So that gives us hope. Now I come to Maya ji, and I would like to ask that how has this judgment impacted the social movement? Because the LGBTQIA was a social movement. It has been for past 2 decades. And do you think that this verdict has put a damper on the social movement that began way back in 1897 in Berlin by Scientific Humanitarian Committee demanding decriminalization and recognition of same-sex marriage? And in coming times for marriage equality campaign, what route would the community like to take, either a legislative route or a judicial route? And can you just tell us the whole journey of from NALSA judgment to Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019 and the current judgment on the same-sex marriage? So can you just walk us through the whole history of building up of a social movement in our country?
Thank you, Dr. Bhuviti, and thank you, IMPRI, for again calling me as one of the panelists and discussing on one of the most top topic in the today's time. I think we have to understand one thing, that when we talk about the Berlin social movement, it is in 1879. And we started our journey in 2001 when Section 371, first time, the first thing we started is in 2001. So almost 200 years later. And a moment of any sort will take time, because it's really depend, like, till a time we were fighting for our own rights, independent rights. And then there were lots of other reforms which were supposed to be changed, and they were taken on the priority. We have to understand one thing, that Section 377, what the entire route of Section 377 going from Delhi Court to High Court, Delhi High Court to Supreme Court, then it got repetition and everything. And finally, 2018, we got the judgment favor for the community. And we have to understand that when this judgment came, there was a difference between even the community, within the community. Okay, so for example, I'll tell you, when it came, the judgment came, trans community were out of it. Like, they themselves wanted to out of it, because this is something not about me. This is about lesbian, gay, bisexual. We are not part of it. That was the thing that had made things more negative within the, because media always take the negative part first, then compared to the positive part. But then after that, during the 2018 when it came, before that we got 2014 ka Nalsa judgment. Now the judge, we have to see the triangulation between the Nalsa judgment, Transgender Act, and same-sex or the equal marriage rights. So the triangulation is like that. In Nalsa judgment, all the rights has been given to the trans people, whereas rights of marriage and adoption was not given. It clearly mentioned. You can be self-identify, you can have all the privilege, all the reservation and everything. But then there were no rights given on marriage and adoption. Because that time, even it was the same code. We didn't understand there is a need of such rights. Then the reason for coming of a Transgender Act was because we have seen after 5 years, there was no work done as per the directive from the court of Nalsa judgment. Like what the directive was given under the Nalsa judgment, there was no act, no work was done. And in that case, there were point where, in my last, in the non-binary session, I have given the entire history of how the Trans Act came with where it was earlier talked about. And then, but then even in Trans Act, we are talking about Trans Act or the Transgender Protection Act. There is not talking about the marriage and thing. So that was a problem where, this point was not there. And I was shocked when I was hearing that final judgment. Supreme Court quoted Transgender Act. So, but then in NALSA or Transgender Act, these marriage rights were not even talked about. Adoption rights were not talked about. How come you quote something which has not been talked about? You can say that, since it's not been taken care of, now we thought of taking care of. That is one thing. Second thing, the decision, what the Supreme Court made it, I think it is had both pros and cons. The cons is that it had given a divide and rule policy. We give everything to trans, but when it comes to LGBT, G and B, their rights to be not protected. Okay, so in the case of trans, I have clearly said trans person can marry to a cis woman, cis man, trans person. That's okay. They can have the right of even adoption. But why then? How can you keep gender and sexuality separate? Gender and sexuality is complex subject which is integrated within itself. I'm going to say I can be a trans, but I may be a homosexual trans. So I being a trans where I like trans itself only. So where my question is, what comes the first? My identity comes the first or the sexuality comes the first? So that is one thing. This is something like, divide and rule policy, which they have thought of it really hurting. They should have not taken care. They should have not done it. Second thing, even in the case of when we talk about they may not given equal marriage rights, but they have been talking about protection of the community member, which is beyond the section 377 judgment. They've been talking about there is a special committee which can be formed out in the district level or the state level, where they will justify, check, verify the couple, give the protection. They are talking about you can be a nominee. Now the couple can be a nominee in bank account, LIC, and everything. They also said that if the couple has been harassed, then legal action can be taken care of. There are multiple such provision has been done, which was not included into the section 377 judgment. But my only question to the judgment is that even NALSA judgment had many directives, and it took around 10 years. Not even a single % of it has been utilized across the India. There are some progressive states which has been taken care of those directives, but it's not about one state or two states, because the community is spread out across country. When are you talking about for example, like in the Maharashtra, which is one of the most progressive state and one of the most progressive government, but then there is nothing when it comes to even on a transgender board or transgender rights, or even as a LGBT per se, there is nothing compared to. We don't even learn from what other states have been doing on. So my only question is, like, you have written the good wordings on protecting the individual, but when it will be implemented, who will implement? You have not given that directive. There's no timeline onto it. We should get a learning from Nalsa judgment that after 9 years, there were no implementation at union level, at union territory level, at state level. Then why can't you put timeline to it? First thing is that. Second thing, one of the things which you have to important is, like, why should I go to a court to get my identity? That's my fundamental right. Then why should I go to ask court that who my partner is? My fundamental right, my individual right. When you talk about Article 21 and you're going to court, you are questioning Article 21 itself. So court or a parliament will not should not given a right to give a selection on who should be my partner, who should be my like you should not get into my bed. It is that open about, like, that blunt about to talk about. So I think the movement which has been, like, which you've been talking about, ma'am. So we have to learn from the other two judgment and talk about how well we can do it with the judge, this particular judgment. And as a community, what should we see way forward? I 100% accept what Harish said, that in future we can't see anything happening in, like, इसका कुछ result आना नहीं है, इसका कभी positive result आएगा नहीं, rights मिलेगा नहीं. वो सही है, because this is the way government want to play, or the party want to play, or a court want to play. They have given 2-3 judgment which is very positive for the community, irrespective to whether be a trans, whether be a lesbian, whether be a gay. But then there's something which is a very basic fundamental right of a person to select who he or she should live his life. You have taken that right away from the person, and that is something very, very disgusting and very disturbing for an individual. What is it? The level of homophobia and the crime of forced marriage will increase multiple times in the country. We should also see that. So I want to conclude that, we have to look like, let's see what Parliament have to say to it, and when it's also question, like, when the Parliament take it. Next year is an election.
Yeah. Correct. But what should be done for changing the mindset of people in terms of a social movement and reaching out? What is your agenda of action?
My agenda of action would be, like, the directive which has been very Supreme Court have clearly said they have protected the rights of LGBTQI people in various forms. As I mentioned, to form a committee, to form their legal rights have been taken care of. They have been given the permission to be a nominee. All those things. The way forward should be, these things should be taken ahead by an organization, by a collective, by a government person at state level, and even at each of the parliament, each of the state ministry, that this have to be implemented, and there should be a committee which should have one person from the committee member, as a committee member. And then these should come with a timeline when they do it, because it should not happen like, it will happen like a transgender, we waited for 10 years and we didn't got anything in our hand. It should not like happen like, abhi wape baith ke dekhe kab ye hoga. Because I'll tell you, even today, the Transgender Act, the 3G certificate has been implemented, but then the government official are not been updated about this certificate. And we were not able to get our gender and name change within the legal document. If it is so, then how can you protect individual who identify themselves from LGBTQI, and you can run with the paper always like Supreme Court ne hame diya hai, hame ye batana hai. I think the way forward, I think the best way forward would be like, we should plan how we take these as a, I understand it's very disturbing decision. It has hampered lots of people emotionally. It have increased the crime rate or the trans or homophobia and all those things. But then we should take the best of it and talk with the government to make a policy in such a form that tomorrow anyone can go and challenge if they had been not abiding to these policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I come to Mogli ji, and I would once again like to ask that when judicial route has betrayed the cause, do you think that the legislative route would be more desirable? And for that, what would be the agenda for the next election? Hello, Mr. Vyjayanti ji, are you there? Hello. And how do we change the mindset of people and decision makers in politics and governance? And how can we build public opinion to counter not only homophobia, but also a positive action plan?
Sure. So can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear. We can hear you.
Great. The earlier speakers, Harish ji and Awasthi ji, have elaborately dwelt upon the broad framework of the judgment. So I shall not spend a lot of time on that. To answer your question on, your voice was staggered and a little fragmented. All I understood was broadly the way ahead. Before we go to the way ahead, in retrospect, in hindsight, we are always wiser. Everybody's wiser in retrospect. Yeah, everybody's wiser in hindsight. And I agree with the Harish Iyer ji that this was a bit of a rush because as a petitioner, I was one of the petitioners. We were a bunch of transgender persons who petitioned. We were very worried that if it were to be an adverse judgment, because the principal petitioners were mostly a whole bunch of cis gay men. So we were very worried that if we don't enter the fray, what about trans marriages? So we were kind of forced to enter. And I totally agree that it should have been thought through. We should have had state-wise, district-wise consultations. As transgender persons, flatly put, we are not in a space of gain. We are also not in a space of huge loss. There could be some losses. I mean, we can't entirely rule them out. With Justice Swaminathan single judge bench of the Madurai High Court that delivered a verdict a few years ago on trans marriages being further reinforced and upheld, of trans heterosexual marriages shall continue and have the writ of the law, have the force of the law, is not discouraging. However, very many other things on adoption and all of that should have been carefully thought through. Now, on the way ahead, the court has laid down that the high-powered cabinet secretary, the high-powered committee headed by the cabinet secretary, shall examine. So it is in our as communities. In plural, as communities and activists, it is also our responsibility to keep writing to that committee, to file representations with that high-powered committee, state-wise, district-wise, and if possible, mandal-wise. And also not limit ourselves to that high-powered cabinet secretaries committee, but also do advocacy with our respective state governments. Because be it a large part of marriage is on the concurrent list. So for us to do advocacy with our respective state governments, then that apart, again, marriage also is not the be all and end all of our lives. It is an important part of our lives for many, though not all. All of us don't see eye to eye on it. As the next thing, we were discussing this in our consultations. We held consultations after the judgment, and what we have as a major ask on the anvil, on the agenda, are horizontal reservations. If now there is a principle, there is a jurisprudential principle that we have, that very many movements have adopted from the disability rights movement, of nothing about us without us. Be they women, be they persons with disabilities, be they transgender persons, LGBTIQ persons, or acid attack survivors, anyone, nothing about us without us. Where are we as IAS officers? Where are we as cabinet ministers, union ministers? Where are we as judges? Are we there? We are not. We are definitely, we are not visible. We are not there. So one way of achieving this is through horizontal reservations that very many states have already granted to women. So this is a very long path ahead, and until some of us sit in those seats of power, it will always be somebody trying to empathize and trying to understand us. We'll have to put our people there as much as with women have put their women there. I mean, there are very many Supreme Court judges today, at least 3 of them, who are women, and so very many High Court judges who are women. There are very many women politicians. So the something like the Women's Reservations Bill, we must have Parliament, in public education, in public employment, in all government schemes, and also in political office. Your next question.
Yeah. So I think I like this point of yours, that nothing without us, nothing about us without us, and also very important that politically in all the important bodies of apex bodies of decision making, whether it's a politics or governance or judiciary, we need to have more space. But even for that, a lot of affirmative action by the state and non-state actors will have to be taken, because currently the gender gap in the area of education or even health scenario, shelter, basic existential struggle is so acute. So I think even in gender responsive budgeting for empowerment, the way Tamil Nadu and Kerala have done, I think other states will also have to do, other 28 states and the union territories. Then only you create an ecosystem where you can aspire to be on the higher bodies of. So in that direction, what can be done? What are the demands? Do you have a charter of demands from them?
I lost you for a few seconds. I had to log in again.
I said that, yeah. So even to be on those apex bodies, you need an ecosystem which is enabling, no? In terms of education and qualification and skill building, and even the self-esteem and confidence building. So for that, what is the economic agenda or the action agenda, and what are the demands at the national and subnational level, no? For the
all this is evolving right now. Consultatively, it is evolving. And what I hear when I put my ears to the ground, with our communities and I hear them, there are very many demands of engaging with political offices, with MLAs, with MPs, with councillors, with corporators, and increasing to lobby, to do advocacy with them. That apart, I don't know. I mean, I could be ripped apart for suggesting this, but I see this as the future. I could be wrong. I hope I am wrong, but I fear this. Much of our argument has been on constitutional ethos. Much of our arguments in court or in our advocacy has been on constitutional ethos. And our constitution has mostly been, sorry, I'm just getting off the cab. Unblock, please. Yeah, our constitutional ethos in the near future, I feel that it will undergo a huge change with huge overhauling of our laws. Uh, uh, and I don't know if we are prepared for that yet.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So my only response is that gender responsive budgeting is very important, so that more and more people from the gender minorities, they can be in the mainstream of governance and politics. And now we come
not
to
we agree.
yeah.
Whether or not we agree. It is very recently the former Supreme Court Justice Abdul Nazir, who's now the governor of Andhra Pradesh, said that we have to Indianize our jurisprudence. So that was also said by the outgoing CJI, I forget his name, C.V. Ramana. So, and what are they referring to? This is something that we have to deep dive into. When somebody like J. Sai Deepak argues and throws tomes of literature at us from Yajnavalkya, from Mimamsa jurisprudence, from Narada Samhita, and so on, we haven't read it. We haven't read any of that. It is very important whether or not we agree. It is very, very important that we read up on all of this so that we find our spaces in each of these things at the tomes and tomes of literature that's being thrown at us.
Correct. Yeah, very important. Very, very important. Yeah. Thank you very much for this insights. But I would also like to dwell on the whole material aspect of it, that how to empower it through state intervention in terms of social security, social protection, and the whatever gender commitments are there, they are translated into the budgetary commitments by the state, the way Tamil Nadu and Kerala have done. I think rest of this, that's
fair. So we need to look all around, do a comparative study of the states that have succeeded more than the other states, and follow or improve upon those best practices. That apart, I think we should also leverage the private sector, because much of the private sector has not been against it in principle. I don't know how much of it is happening in practice. Leverage the private sector as well. Increase the funding pool from the government and the private sector and international bodies. Invest in our own skill building and entrepreneurship. Everything that's available to cisgender, heterosexual persons. There are existing schemes, you see. We have to encourage our people to go and apply, be it DDU, GKY, Deen Dayal, Gramin, whatever that is, I forget the expansion, or any state scheme. In each of these schemes, welfare schemes, we have to percolate and ensure that people at the end of the queue, at the bottom of the pyramid, are aware of these schemes for them to go and apply, be it because our people, particularly transgender people, face exclusions, right from education to employment to housing, Medicare, and all of that. So as activists, as civil society organizations, as researchers, it is our responsibility to ensure that this information percolates down to those at the end of the queue, bottom of the pyramid, for them to go access it. This change is not going to happen like this overnight. It's going to take years, perhaps a few years. And it may, hopefully it will happen in my lifetime, in your lifetime. We'll be hopeful.
That's why the structures, patriarchal structures and systems will have to change. Mayaji is trying to get so many transgender persons in like admission in the college, and the argument used against it is that in our form there is only he and she, there is no other. So that these are the kind of this thing which even the most oldest university like Bombay University is doing that. And 150 years back, the same thing was thrown at women. When a first Parsi lady wanted admission in Bombay University, they said our form has everything in he, him, and his. And finally, she took the judicial route, and the form started writing he and she. So now I think the same thing, history is repeating itself. So thank you for very, very educative and insightful this intervention. And now, Rituparna ji, are you there? Hello. There are questions by Hema Gandotra ji. Harish ji, are you there? Hello. The first question is to you,
Harish
where
left, I think.
Himaji is asking, do you think that the court verdict has at least made many of us to actually talk about the issue, and the ones who were ignorant about it now want to know what actually the case was? So I think this question I also had asked in the discussion, and I think Harish ji also said that yes, this 10 days of public deliberations has brought the agenda of the gender minorities center stage. People have been discussing. The second question is to Maya ji by Dr. Hema Gandotra. Madam, would you like to ask yourself? Can you unmute yourself and speak? Dr. Hema Gandotra, are you there? Where she asked that this judgment, do you think that it will further stigmatize LGBTQIA plus community? Hello.
Yes, thank you for the question. In my talk, I have clearly mentioned that this is a stigmatized and discriminatory decision towards the community, and the vulnerability of a community will increase. I'm to say, like, we talk about forced marriages of gay and lesbian.
Yeah.
If you pick up any newspaper from last once the judgment came, and there are cases where lesbian couple, where gay couple, especially I'm talking about the lesbian couple, there were 3 or 4 lesbian couple from the country who have came out and talked about their marriage, but then no one supported them. They were like, because there were no rights. They could not go to any court or any law and order to get the support from them, because the rights of marriage had not been yet given to them. Not even as a right of being an individual to come out as a gender or a sexuality. Gender I can understand with an ALSA, but then they were not talking about the gender, they were talking about the sexuality. So this will really give increase the vulnerability. Also, it's not about the crime from the family or from the society. It's also there will be rate of crime from the judiciary and other level. When I'm talking about the stakeholders, various stakeholders from media, because you don't know how media write about you and your relationship, and they want to just get a TRP, whether be a print media, whether be a audio media or a TV, visual media. In fact, even the blogs, any form of things they will twist and turn the things as per their need for the stories. So this is where I was talking about the vulnerability have been increased now. If you see after Section 377 was decriminalized, there were lots of cases of blackmailing, there were lots of cases of rape, there were lots of cases of forced sex by the police, by the media, by the law and order people, because they always say that, they had now more thing like, आज आप Section 377 की बात कर रहे हैं, but then क्या आपको बाकी के rights मिले हैं क्या? Are your parents accepting it? With the society accepting it and taking that as an weapon? They are doing a blackmail, they are doing extortion, they are doing a physical abuse and all. So I think this is the same way which we will see that the same repetition will happen even in that. So there's no any judgment or any law which talks about the forced marriage in our country. So where are we talking about securing the person's individuality or his or her own identity? So that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope I was clear with my answer.
Yes, there are many teachers from different universities. Professor Vishwaraksha, you are from Jammu University. Would you like to share your experiences on what is happening in the campus and what kind of debates are taking place after the judgment? Hello, are you there, Dr. Vishwaraksha? Hello?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Vibhuti?
please unmute yourself, or even you can.
I have unmuted and I can't put myself on camera, I guess,
Okay,
but
yeah, I understand.
I can't see myself.
Yeah.
Host would like, okay.
Now,
1 minute. Okay. Yeah.
okay, fine.
Okay. Yeah. So, wonderful. I mean, I enjoyed the discussion, and I've been following Harishji's work since long, and I've seen his growth. You know how he had to actually fight for a lot of variables. I mean, I can't just go on counting them, but wonderful to listen to Mayaji as well. But as Vibhuti, thank you so much asking me for the campus friendliness that we are having for all genders. So let me share with everybody, like all institutions, we are also, conducting gender audits, and we've recently done an external gender audit in which one of the things which we have been discussing and coming up is letting students identify themselves as transgenders. So our university has now opened up letting the students identify themselves as, transgenders. So there are options where they don't have to fill in just as, male, female, and other, but they can go on, identifying themselves as well. So officially, it would still take some more time, but whoever individually is coming with this request, is being facilitated. That's one thing. And even like I would illustrate by just saying they are filling up examination forms. So they want to say that, we not just want the admission, but we also want our, marks cards, etc., also identifying us like that. That's one thing. The other thing is lot of content discussion, and not just restricting it to students who are taking up social sciences and languages, or law for that matter. There are students across disciplines like sciences, etc., who are coming for our courses and questioning. And many of them are now, coming in open in public by, identifying themselves that we are not the quote unquote compulsory heterosexuals, but we are open and we are having relationships which are beyond these binaries. And I'm saying that we don't have statistics. If you ask me if I have to tell you the number, we can't count, we don't have numbers, but definitely there are now students openly talking about it. And yes, there are some of them who are facing a lot of challenges as well, but we are planning and we are looking forward, which is one of our gender audit, I would say, a takeaway, that we had a healthy discussion wherein these kinds of platforms, where the younger generation with their own challenges related to all this, they are opening up and they're talking. So we as teachers would be doing hand holding, and especially the Center for Women's Studies and other departments where gender issues are taken up. We are all trying to talk to them, give them space to talk to us, and then get into networks like these. So I'm sure many of my students are also connected today. At least my gender students have all logged in, and they're listening to this conversation, which on purpose I asked them to do that, because that would also give them a kind of hope whenever and wherever to whom to talk to, and what exactly is happening at different levels across India. I understand that the whole Supreme Court idea about not coming up with a concrete decision but leaving it loose has dampened the whole that as Harish puts it, that hope that everybody had generated. But I would still go very positive and say still a step ahead. As he says, 2 steps and 1 step. So still a step ahead. We all heard the live, judgment when they were talking about it. And that also, I'm sure, will add on to the kind of discussions that we already having in our classrooms and the spaces possible for us on our campuses. Thank you so much. I teach sociology in University of Jammu.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Vishwaraksha, for such a
Thank you so
hope
much.
generating testimony.
Thank you so
Now, I
much.
would like to ask Professor Ivan John, who is also very active and extremely popular teacher of Sophia College and works on a gender diversity issue, to share the experience. Again, he is also a sociologist. Professor Ivan John, are you there? Can you unmute yourself and tell us the ground reality and kind of challenges you are facing? And you also recently submitted gender equity policy report, no? Of the
Yes,
of
that's
your
right.
college. Yeah,
Hello.
and also-
I don't know whether you can see me, but that doesn't matter, I guess.
Yeah.
Let me just share some thoughts. Thank
you
you,
can
Dr.
show the
Vil-
video, no problem.
I'm not I think I'm
No,
a
no
little
problem. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Yes. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Yes.
Hello,
we
I
can
think
see
I've
you.
come back.
Yes, we
All
can
right,
see you.
okay.
We can see.
My experience, good evening, everyone. Thank you for that lovely session with insights from members of the community, of which I too am a part. And as a teacher who is at Sophia College for Women, we were part of the Gender Audit Committee. And my experience in Sophia College has been one whereby students on the whole have felt very safe on our campus as members of the community, though we've had some issues such as some teachers who may not have liked to refer to students by their preferred pronouns. So that was an important concern. Another was some members who felt that we are not going to address students by their preferred pronouns because they've not got any legal documentation to that effect. And I think we can't afford to wait for legal documentation to happen, because the students are here with us right here and right now. And we need to respect and value them for who they are and their authentic selves. An area of concern as a member of the same college is that many among the faculty themselves are not very aware of LGBTQAI+, and they don't know how to handle it. So gender sensitization is so important. And yet, as much as we might have a workshop to make fellow teachers aware of the diversity, I mean, how does that translate into action in the daily classroom on a daily basis? So that transition needs to happen. And I think as one of the experts on the panel mentioned, it's important to create awareness and educate, because that's the only way we can get around performing our social functions as educators and people in an educational system, whereby we can reach out to our students. So how many of our courses do talk about gender, and gender in its plural sense, not merely in terms of inclusion of women alone? So I think women's studies or women's centers now we call gender studies, and broaden that horizon to include many more people. I'll just say that. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have Professor Kiran Sharma. She is, I think, with the Law College of the HNBC University, Vice Principal. Dr. Kiran, would you like to say how in the Law College campuses the issue has been discussed? Can you unmute yourself and share your views? Hello, are you there? Dr. Kiran Sharma? I think your students have also joined on YouTube. Dr. Hema Gandotra, would you like to share your experiences?
Yes, good.
Yeah.
Good evening, ma'am. I am Dr. Kiran Sharma here.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yes.
Ma'am, I cannot on my video, so
No problem, no
sorry
problem, no problem, madam. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for organizing so wonderful this panel discussion. We are doing a lot of things for sensitizing, that the Q community. Even we are having a student this year, madam, for LLB.
Yeah.
We have admitted one student from that community, and in my college we keep on keeping, like for example this particular judgment is there, so we were having 2 to 3 times discussion on the particular topic. And even before, when the judgment was delivered, we were having so many, even the gender audit and all we are keeping, madam, every year. So we are having a lot of this discussion, debate. Even the conferences also, we are keeping one of the topic or the subtopic or the theme for the conference on it. So we are doing a lot, a kind of the sensitization and all.
Yeah, I know your sociology department of a university is very active, Dr. Leena Pujari, but I was not aware about the law college's work on this in this area. No, yeah. Thank you
Yes,
for
ma'am.
sharing that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Dr. Hema Gandotra, would you like to speak?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Please go ahead.
And thank you very
Introduce
much.
yourself and your college. Yeah.
Yeah, I am Dr. Hema. I am a faculty in the Department of Sociology, University of Jammu. Ma'am, thank you. First of all, let me congratulate you and thank you for generating a discourse on such an important topic. Because my HOD has also joined, Professor Vishwaraksha, rightly pointed out by her that at least nowadays the students have actually started identifying themselves. They've started talking about this issue. The only lacuna what I find on the campus and in my city is we actually want the community members to come forward and talk about the issue, to generate the debates on such an important issue. We have the transgender people in the Jammu city, but the only point is that due to lack of what I feel as a student of sociology, and since 2011 I started working on these the intersex and later on the transgender, tried to understand these transgender people. The only thing is that we lack the leadership in this community, in this sense. I don't know why in Jammu these people do not come forward to actually talk about their own issues. We have now few of these students, very few in number, but I'm glad we have this few number also, where they have taken admissions in the colleges, but still that opportunity, that platform is still missing, where they can actually come up and talk freely about their issues, about their concerns, about, as has been very rightly pointed out by Maya ji, that the question I asked, that do you think the verdicts like these will further stigmatize them? I think the level of stigma is still there, even in case of in the field of education also, because we do not have reservation. Yes, we do have on the forms now the other category, but we do not have reservations in term of like a reserved seat for a transgender person. We do not have the reservation in terms of the employment, and moreover in I don't know about the other educational institutes, but even the fees are not being waived off for this transgender community, which I think would be a very big step if we actually start giving concession in the fee part of the
Tamil Nadu has
education
waived.
system.
Tamil Nadu and Kerala, they have waived fees and also provided the hostels and all the needs, no, the day-to-day.
Yes, ma'am. The steps like this, I think will boost up them to come forward and actually take admissions in the institutions, and maybe through education that level of sensitization might arise. Whatever I can see through these debates is a lot of sensitization in other parts of India, but this kind of sensitization is still missing in our UT of Jammu and Kashmir.
Correct. In
Thank you,
Kerala's
ma'am.
gender budget also very clearly mentioned. Today only I saw the current year's budget of Kerala, where there is a clear-cut amount. First of all, census is completed. Kerala has a census of transgender community. And also the needs in terms of need assessment is also over, in terms of housing, the need for shelter, education, elderly people for pension, and also the income support after the pandemic, and the health needs, the sensitization of doctors for the specific health needs of the community and those who are transitioning their needs. So I think if there is a will, there is a way, because Kerala is not a rich state in terms.
Ma'am, I know
LGBT.
sorry,
Yeah.
ma'am. I know some of, and now I would call them my friends belonging to the transgender community, who are not in Jammu, studying outside Jammu, but still when they come to Jammu, they don't want themselves to be identified as transgender. They don't want themselves to be introduced as transgender, because somewhere that family has that thing, na, that they say that our family doesn't like it. So please don't introduce us, because I wanted some of them to participate in one of the workshops. So they said that as a transgender, we cannot participate. But in the educational institutions where they are admitted outside Jammu, they are very normal and they are being identified. They are with their sexuality of transgender only.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. The
Vibhuti,
participants.
just a point, ma'am.
Please go
I
ahead.
just
Please.
want.
Yes.
I think this would also give some, some very positive about Jammu. Maya ji would also, like to know this, that Jammu recently started to have a pride parade. So I think if a city starts organizing, a pride parade, and where you have a number of people actually coming and participating, and that's where we started to know that students have started identifying themselves. So I think it's a very positive sign for creating a space in a city which is still very traditional, is still progressing, has not grown the way other cities have, but that definitely gives all of us a hope.
Thank you very much. There are some other teachers also among the participants. Would you like to share your ground level experiences on the subject, or even your challenges which your students or teachers of transgender community in your area facing? Otherwise, I would like to give last round to Maya Awasthi ji to give the response to all the testimonies that have come in front of us from Bombay, Jammu, and these two cities. Do any participant want to speak? Dhriti Gupta, Dr. Suvarna Jadhav, Mr. Gopal Iyengar, Riya Yadav, Soumya Divekar, and Shivani Bist. Would you like to speak, any one of you or all of you? Okay, then now, Maya ji, please go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, I would like to thank all the professors who have shared the testimony. I mean, it's incredible. Like, maybe one state, one city doing a minuscule work also, but then even that minuscule work is remarkable. I'm going to say, whatever the colleges and the campus has been doing, maybe the campus of college or the university, they all are fab. But then I have some recommendation for all the faculty, teachers here who have spoke, who have not spoke. So one thing is our harassment policy, I'm going to say what you call it, bullying policy in the colleges. It is not gender neutral. I'm going to say I went for Dr. VIBHUTI knows me very well that I work more into the academical space compared to any other corporate space and all. So I go for sessions in college, and one of the college when I was walking around, and they had made a big poster of the bullying law and
anti-ragging law.
Anti-ragging law.
And
it was pushed as a poster, big poster. And I questioned the dean that why it's not gender specific or sexuality specific. It need to be gender specific and gender specific. Because when you talk about anti-ragging law, you see that it talks about caste, religion, all those things, but they don't speak about gender. Okay, that is one thing which we have to take it upfront with the ministry, that if this law have to change, or the law, even the judiciary, why can't we change the law? Because now we have section 377, now we have Nalsa judgment, now we have Transgender Act. Now this needs to be updated.
Second thing, to say it should be, the law should be gender inclusive.
Gender inclusive of gender and sexuality.
Gender and sexuality.
Okay. Now I've been talking about National Human Rights Commission had given on 15th September 2023 one directive to all the people, state and union territory, saying that what are the advisory to ensure the welfare of transgender person, in which for education they have clearly mentioned that anti-discrimination cell should be there. And me and Dr. VIBHUTI had spoken about it, and we said, like, we have to write to the university, we have to write to the colleges that there should be anti-discrimination cell. And they are not given directive what the anti-discrimination cell will look like, who will the participant and all. But then if it is open-ended, then we should one of the colleges, one of the university have to do it, because if one university does, it is not one university who is doing it, is the multiple colleges under that university will be using it. So that thing is one of the most important thing is that national education policy have changed. And there is a provision of curriculum redesigning. We should have people from community to be part of it. We had been talking top of our voice that there should be a subject of gender and sexuality in the as a syllabus, not at a medical. It's very far long this time. By the time you teach in medical, gender kya hai, sexuality kya hai, it should be time from the education, from the primary, the secondary education, and the 7th and 8th, because that's the time in the puberty has been, people have been aware there's a puberty, and then people are confused about their sexuality, and they get into the experimental thing to understand their sexuality or gender. And that may increase the vulnerability of the person. Lastly, ma'am have talked about Pride March. I would say let's have Pride March within the campus. Because now this corporate has been started doing it. They start doing the Pride March within the corporate campus. Okay. It is one thing we have to also understand how you secure the thing, because below 18, you can talk about it. When you're less than 18, law don't permit to talk about your gender and sexuality, because you don't have an age of consent to say that it is I am XYZ sexuality or gender. Okay, but then how are you securing that? Because if the parents or teacher association or the college management stands for the student, then law have to talk. Law have to understand that thing. Okay, so we have. That's what Dr. Hema mentioned. That Professor Hema mentioned that there are not a lot of people talking about within the campus. There are not people talking about their sexuality or gender openly. And it's not about Himachal. I'm talking about even the city like Mumbai, which is a more progressive city. Here also people will not talk about things, because there's no security and safety or safeguarded for the person who will come out and talk about it. When I came out to my neighbor, I just completed my 10th standard. And that time, gay was also not defined. So for me, my gender was not defined also. Like, there was no definition. कोई शब्द ही नहीं था जिसको मैं समझाऊं कि क्या है. And that time, when I asked the person who was just 10 years older than me, I asked the person to, Baba, इसको क्या है, मैं क्या हूँ, बताओ. The only thing was what he completed or he does his experiment to satisfy his sexual need, but not my need of understanding what I am. So this is where I'm to put it very strongly to all the professors. Here is where the community lack safety and security. They has been used by the people for their sexual pleasure. That's it. Nothing more than that. There are times, we were the time, during my time, I know lots of transgender who used to not go 8 hours to washroom because they were fearing that they will get molested, they will get physically abused if they use toilet, because they know the way we walk, the way we react, our behavior. So that is what something which have to find out. I am open to work on with any of the college or the professor. Dr. VIBHUTI Patel knows it, so know me very well. But then these are the way forward, Dr. VIBHUTI, which I would like to suggest to most of all the, not most, but all the thing. Let's decide to put people on designing the curriculum.
Thank you, Mayaji. I think all the 4 points suggested by you are extremely important, that we need to have amendments in the anti-ragging law, because transgender students, they face the most, and they are also identified by the other bullies, and they are ragged. Second one is that national education policy also need to focus on subject of gender and sexuality with the concern for gender minorities and welfare of students in university, right from admission to the opportunities, scholarships, hostel admission, everything needs to be, including the toilets, because that's what in Sophia study also it came out that they demanded separate toilet. So anti-discrimination cells within college is an extremely important suggestion you have given. And I think that the Pride March within the campus is also a very good suggestion. Professor John has also said that Pride Marches bring in allies alongside members of queer community. So I think that is what he has written in the chat box. And he also said that in his college, Sophia College, they have a queer collective. So I think there is strength in number. If you are united, then there is a less to counter any kind of a ragging or bullying or violence. It's very easy when you are in a group. So I think it's very important to form the queer collective. Vishwarakshaji, would you like to say anything, or should I go for conclusion?
Yeah, I just wanted to add two points. One is that universities and institutions have various policies like quality policy or harassment. We also have a gender policy. And we just framed it very recently, and we've included transgender, responding to that, yes, we need to be specific and talk about it. It's very important, and also put it in our policies. Number two, curriculum wise, at least I can share about sociology, that sexuality is part of discussion. So it's an important topic and concept. And third, Vibhuti ma'am, you're talking about national education policy. Just my own experience, because I was representing my own union territory as chairman of the this national curriculum framework for school textbooks. No, NCRT was doing it state-wise, and I was doing it for the gender part. And for all the questions and components that we spoke over Jammu and Kashmir, we included transgenders, and there was this specific emphasis on that how the school teaching pedagogy needs to, all the activities and all the curriculum content needs to look into not just the binary but also the transgender. So which was very heartening that already there was a policy directive to us to work on a curriculum framework which includes. So I thought these were all
very, very optimistic this news that you have given. And I think things are changing in a big way. So far as the public, and always, I think elite is always behind the masses. No, the people are, even if you say we have learned a lot from the younger generation, and after the Pride Parade only, the people started first out of curiosity and then quest for understanding the dilemmas and the challenges faced by the gender minorities started happening. So I think this at the end of this, I feel quite optimistic that the way in for a section 377 also there was a 1 step forward, 2 step backward, again 3 step forward. That kind of a scenario happened. So I think same thing will happen for the rights and expanding the rights of the of the gender minorities. And I would like to, in my concluding remark, I would like to say that we have learned in this discussion that though Supreme Court verdict on same-sex marriages gives nothing new to the LGBTQ plus citizens, nothing that 2014 NALSA judgment, which was recognizing transgender rights, and 2018 Navtej, like reading down the section 377 judgments had not already granted. The Supreme Court has lost historic opportunity to build upon those previous landmark verdicts. Not only did it fail to step up to the occasion, but it also failed to provide an alternative framework to marriage that would grant some protection from the lived realities of the everyday discrimination, dehumanization, and persecution that the LGBTQ plus community faces. Women's movement has had 40 years of struggle to fight against discriminatory personal laws, which also had a bias against which were prejudicial when it came to women's rights in the marriage or divorce or custody of child or maintenance of property or right to live in a matrimonial home or parental home. So imagine if that happened to women, while transgender community, there is not even recognition that in the family laws that they need to have equal rights. By refusing to recognize the right to marriage as constitutional right and leaving the task of providing any legal recognition to LGBTQ plus couples exclusively to the legislature, the court has abdicated its role as an arbiter of justice in the face of political apathy and societal hostility. This is an abandonment of responsibility by the Supreme Court of India, and the apex court has now left LGBTQ plus citizens to fend for themselves, merely informing them that they have a right to their relationships, even quote unquote directing the states and the police to render protection in instances of discrimination and violence, but failing to provide any strong systems and structures to redress and protection mechanisms, successfully throwing the ball back to the LGBTQ plus community. It is high time that both state and civil society abide by this constitution and work together to build a political will to put in place measures for alleviating the structural discriminations and violence to which most queer and trans people are subjected to, and finding ways to offer legal recognition for their chosen families. I express my heartfelt thanks to the IMPRI team for taking initiative to organize today's very serious discussion, very insightful discussion, and the opportunity for experience sharing for all those, though we are in microscopic minority, but I think when there is will, there is way. And that Gandhiji also said that if you are determined, small group of determined human beings, right? If they start their work, then we can achieve in a long run. We can achieve our goal. So with that optimistic note, and I think most of the testimonies by the college professors and university professors have been very inspiring. And I think we take that and we will replicate such experiences in throughout the country. Thank you very much. Over to Rahmat Arora.
Thank you, ma'am. As we come to an end of today's discussion, I, Rahmat Arora, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, would like to propose the formal vote of thanks. On behalf of #IMPRI, Gender Impact Study Center, GISC, I would like to thank all of you for attending today's deliberation. A panel discussion on the Supreme Court verdict on the same-sex union, navigating its impact, implications, and the future ahead. We would also like to congratulate Professor Vibhuti Patel, Dr. Simi Mehta, Ms. Vidhita Jha, and Ms. Samriddhi Sharma for the book release of Understanding Sexual Identities and Queer Right Issues in India Event Outcome Report. Congratulations again. We're grateful to our chair for the session, Professor Vibhuti Patel ji, our esteemed panelists, Maya Awasthi ji, Harish Iyer ji, Vyjayanti Vasanta Mogli ji, Prince Manvendra Singh Gohil ji, and Rituparna Neog ji, for taking part in the discussion and enlightening us. We thank all our participants who have raised pertinent discussions and actively provided us with questions in today's deliberation. We're grateful if you're watching us later on our YouTube channel or listening to us on our various podcasts or reading our publications. You may also find more thematic events and book discussions under IMPRI Web Policy Talk series. We hope you continue to join in the future to our IMPRI Web Policy Talk and Web Policy Learning. Wishing you a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.